When 80-year-old Samuel Harlan passed away in his small Ohio town, his children expected the usual grief, the funeral arrangements, and the quiet process of cleaning out the family home. What they didn't expect was the discovery of a small wooden box tucked beneath the floorboards of Samuel's study. The box was old, scratched, and locked with a brass key still hanging on a chain beside his desk. Inside were notebooks, 4 of them, each worn thin, each filled with Samuel's handwriting. The covers were labeled 1 Debt, 2 Lessons, 3 Dreams, 4 Legacy. At first, the family thought it was nothing more than Samuel's way of journaling. But as his eldest son, Daniel, began to read aloud from the first notebook, the room fell silent. Samuel's words pulled them into a story they had never heard before, the hidden truth about his struggles, his failures, and the wisdom he wanted to pass down. It wasn't just a diary. It was a roadmap. And with every page, it revealed a side of Samuel no one truly knew. In the notebook titled Debt, Samuel confessed his greatest shame. "I spent the first half of my life chasing money," the entry began, "and the second half learning how to live without it." He wrote about the years after the war, when jobs were scarce and he worked 3 shifts at the steel plant. He borrowed recklessly, convinced each loan would be the last. He invested in guaranteed schemes that always collapsed. He even admitted to lying to his wife, Helen, about the bills piling up until one day, the house nearly slipped away from them. The children looked at each other in disbelief. Their father, the man who never missed a mortgage payment, who always seemed steady, had lived with such fear. But then Samuel wrote something that struck deep. "I carried the weight of those mistakes for decades. But debt, I learned, is not only about money. Debt is every promise you break, every truth you hide, every time you refuse to face your own weakness. And until you pay those debts with honesty, with humility, you cannot be free." For the first time, his children felt the heaviness Samuel must have carried, and the courage it took to put it on paper. The second notebook, Lessons, told a different story. Here Samuel became a teacher. Each entry was a parable, a small story with a point. He wrote about his neighbor who always bought new cars, but died with nothing left to his name. He told of a coworker who earned less but retired peacefully, because he valued saving over showing off. He even shared the memory of his daughter's lemonade stand, where she made more profit by lowering her price than raising it. "The day I learned that generosity sells better than greed." One line was underlined 3 times. "Money is like water. It can drown you or keep you alive. It depends on whether you learn to swim." The children couldn't help but smile. This was the father they recognized, wise, gentle, sometimes stubborn, but always trying to teach through stories. By the time they reached the final notebooks, Dreams and Legacy, Samuel's words turned tender. He admitted to dreams left unfinished, traveling to Alaska, writing a book, learning to paint. But instead of bitterness, he expressed gratitude. "The older I got," he wrote, "the more I realized the dream is not the destination, but the journey of becoming someone better." In Legacy, he addressed his family directly. "To my children, you will make mistakes. You will face fear. But do not waste time hiding them like I did. Share them, so others can learn. That is the true inheritance we pass on, not money, not land, but wisdom earned the hard way." The final page ended with a single line. "If you are reading this, then my life still speaks. Use it well." As Daniel closed the last notebook, the room was quiet. The family wasn't just mourning Samuel anymore. They were learning from him. That night, they agreed to gather every year to read the notebooks aloud, to keep his voice alive, to remind themselves that financial wisdom, honesty, and legacy were worth more than any inheritance. And so Samuel Harlan's greatest gift wasn't the house, or the small savings account he left behind. It was the story of his failures and his courage, bound in 4 notebooks, teaching his children and grandchildren how to live more wisely than he had. Because sometimes the most valuable treasure is not found in gold but in words.